Try these. Use place value to convert each terminating decimal to a fraction. Then rewrite each fraction in its simplest form. Please try these on your own. After you try them, you can watch the video lesson to check your answer. If you're not too sure what to do, just keep watching for now, and I'll lead you through all the problems. Make sure to write everything that I write down on your paper as well. Letter A, 0.218. So I need to look at the furthest right place value in this number. So I know that 0 is in the 1 column. 2 is in the tenths column, so I can think of it as 1/10. So that's 2/10. 1 is in the hundredths column. And 8 is in the thousandths column. So let's see what's happening here. I've got 0 ones plus 2 times 1/10, so 2/10, plus 1 times 100th, so 100th, plus 8 times 1,000, so 8,000ths. All right. So what I'm doing here when I'm simplifying is I want to add these fractions. And in order to add the fractions, I need a common denominator. I'm going to ignore my 0 for now because I'm adding 0. That's the additive identity. It's not going to change the value of any of my numbers. So let's just start with 2/10. I need a common denominator with 10, 100, and 1,000. So the number that they all go into is 1,000. That's the smallest one that they go into. To turn 10 into 1,000, I know there are 2 more zeros, so I'll multiply by 100. So to adjust my green fraction, 2/10, into a number with 1,000 as the denominator, I'm going to multiply by 100 over 100. I need to change 1/100th into a denominator of 1,000 as well. 100 times 10 will give me 1,000, so I'll multiply by 10 over 10. And 8 thousandths, well, obviously 8 thousandths is already compatible with the right denominator because that's the denominator I'm using. So when I multiply here, 2/10 times 100 hundredths gives me 200 thousandths. Plus 100th times 10/10 gives me 10 thousandths. And obviously I had 8 thousandths at the end because I did not change that denominator. Well, take a look. That means I have 218 thousandths. So my shortcut was just to look at this furthest right place value and write my decimal as a whole number over that place value. So all this work, this is why it works. But all I really needed to know was that the furthest right place value was 1/1000th. And then I needed to write 218 over 1,000. So I'm going to erase everything I have here. If you have room to keep going, you don't need to erase anything. And in fact, don't erase something. Get a second piece of paper and follow along on loose leaf if you don't have enough room to keep going. All right, we've established that 0.218 is the same as 218 thousandths. Now I need to simplify. Okay, so I'm looking at these numbers, and my problem right now is that I don't know what the greatest common factor is between them. But that's okay, because I can pick any factor that I know for sure goes into them. So for example, I see that 218 ends in an 8 and that 1,000 ends in a 0. And I know for a fact that if anything ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, that number is even. And therefore, both the numerator and denominator are divisible by 2. So let's divide these by 2. 218 divided by 2 is going to give me 109. And 1,000 divided by 2 is going to give me 500. (109) and 500 have no more common factors, right? Let's take a look at part B, 0.16. We're using that same strategy here. We're saying, hey, that 0.1, that represents my tenths. And that 6 after the decimal, that represents my hundredths. So what I'm really saying here is that 0.16 is the same as 1/10 plus 6 hundredths. And I'm thinking of these as fractions that I want to add together. 1/10 is equivalent to 10 hundredths, which I can get by multiplying the numerator and denominator by 10. And 6 hundredths already has that denominator. So that's how I figure out that 0.16 is the same thing as 16 hundredths. So now I have a fraction that represents this decimal, and I just need to simplify it. So I know that 16 and 100 are both even, but I also happen to know that that 4 times 4 is 16 and 4 times 25 is 100. So they must both be divisible by 4. Let's divide them both by 4 and see what happens. 16 divided by 4 and 100 divided by 4. 16 divided by 4 will give me 4, and 100 divided by 4 will give me 25. And in fact, 4 and 25 don't have any more common factors. 4 can be represented as just 2 times 2, and 25 will be 5 times 5. And there are no more common factors, so this is my final answer. Part C, 2.72. So 2 is going to be my ones column. 7, that's in my tenths column. And 2, that's in my hundredths column. So let's take a shortcut here. I know that the furthest out I'm going is my hundredth column. So instead of thinking about each individual place value, right now, let's just jump to the hundredths column. So I know I'm looking over 100. And as a whole number, I'd be considering 72. I've also got this 2 in the ones column. So my mixed number before I simplify is 2 and 72 hundredths. Now 72 is even, so obviously 72 hundredths can be simplified. So let's start by dividing by 2. If I take 72 divided by 2, I'll get 36. And if I take 100 divided by 2, I'll get 50. So I know that instead of 72 hundredths, I could get 36 fiftieths. But hey, 36 and 50, those guys are both even. So I'm not done. I need to divide each of those by 2 as well. So 36 divided by 2 gives me 18. And 50 divided by 2 gives me 25. And now I'm at the point where I can't simplify anymore because 18, I can multiply by taking 2 times 9 or 3 times 6. And 25, I can multiply by taking 5 times 5. So there are no more common factors to use. So that means my final simplified fraction has got to be 2 and 18 25ths. Last one, part D. I've got 0.0005. So let's see, I've got a 0 in my ones column. I've got a 0 in my tenths column. I've got a 0 in my hundredths column. I even have a 0 in my thousandths column. This 5, it's in my 10,000ths column. So you know that you're talking about 5 10,000ths. Please simplify this on your own. I'm not going to give you the answer to this problem right now. Try it on your own, please.